The council chamber stretched wide and tall, filled with beings from every corner of the galaxy. Some floated in the air, glowing with soft light. Others stood on powerful legs, covered in scales or fur. A few swam in tanks of colored liquid, watching through thick glass. Commander Jake Morrison walked into the center of the room. He wore his dress uniform, clean but showing signs of wear at the edges. Under his arm, he carried an old leather briefcase that his grandfather had used during Earth's early space missions. The leather was cracked and faded, held together at one corner with gray tape. Behind Jake, Captain Lisa Hayes followed, her boots clicking on the smooth floor. She kept her face calm, but her eyes moved constantly, studying every alien in the chamber. Years of military service had taught her to read a room, even when the room was filled with creatures she had never seen before. The Zelthari ambassador rose from his seat. His body was made of living crystal that caught the light and threw rainbows across the walls. His name was Corvith, and his voice sounded like wind chimes when he spoke. "So, humanity finally arrives," Corvith said. The words were pleasant enough, but there was something cold underneath them. "We have reviewed your application for council membership. Tell us, what can Earth offer to the Galactic Defense Initiative?" Jake set his briefcase down and opened it. Inside were data pads and folders, all organized neatly despite the worn appearance of the case. He pulled out a tablet with a cracked screen and held it up. "Earth can provide 47 warships of various classes," Jake said, his voice steady and clear. "We have 12,000 trained personnel ready for immediate deployment. Our manufacturing facilities can produce ammunition, supplies, and spare parts. And our engineers are among the best problem solvers you will find anywhere." A sound like laughter echoed through the chamber. It came from the Vraxian delegation, insect-like beings with multiple arms and shimmering wings. Their translator devices turned their clicking mandibles into words everyone could understand. "Problem solvers?" one of the Vraxians said. "We have seen the images of your flagship. It appears to be held together with adhesive strips." More laughter followed. Even some of the more serious species allowed themselves small sounds of amusement. Corvith gestured toward a large display screen. An image appeared showing Earth's flagship, the Liberty. The ship was large, nearly 300 meters from bow to stern, but it looked nothing like the sleek alien vessels parked at the station. The hull was a patchwork of different metals, some darker than others where repairs had been made. Gray strips ran along several seams, clearly visible even from a distance. "Explain this," Corvith said, pointing at the gray strips. "What primitive method of construction is this?" Lisa felt her jaw tighten, but Jake remained perfectly calm. He had expected this. "That's duct tape," Jake said simply. "Well, the space-rated version. We call it Flex Seal Composite. It creates an airtight seal and can hold up to extreme temperatures and pressure differences." "Duct tape," repeated a Corvani war master, his reptilian face twisting into what might have been a sneer. The Corvani were warriors, their bodies enhanced with biological armor that made them nearly unstoppable in combat. "You use tape to hold your ships together." "We use tape to make field repairs," Jake corrected. "When something breaks in space, you cannot always return to a shipyard. You fix it with what you have. Duct tape works." "How primitive," Corvith said. His crystalline body pulsed with light, a sign of amusement among his people. "We use molecular bonding technology that fuses materials at the atomic level. Our repairs are permanent and stronger than the original construction." "That sounds impressive," Jake said. "How long does that process take?" "Approximately 6 hours for a standard hull breach," Corvith replied, his tone suggesting the question was foolish. "Our tape takes 30 seconds, Jake said. "We can patch a hull breach in the time it takes your crew to evacuate the damaged section." The chamber fell silent for a moment. Then the laughter returned, louder than before, a floating energy being drifted forward. This was the Archon, chairman of the council. Its voice echoed in everyone's mind rather than through their ears. Humanity's application is accepted on a probationary basis, the Archon announced. You will be assigned to Sector 47. It is a quiet region with minimal activity. Consider it a test of your capabilities. Lisa leaned close to Jake and whispered, They are putting us in the least important sector they have. I know, Jake whispered back. The Corvani War Master stood, his heavy armor making grinding sounds as he moved. The Corvani Empire alone fields 3,000 warships, equipped with quantum shielding and plasma weapons. Each of our vessels could destroy your entire fleet within minutes. You bring chemical propulsion and metal projectiles to a war fought with energy and exotic matter. You are centuries behind the rest of us. Maybe so, Jake said, meeting the War Master's eyes without flinching. But we are here, and we are ready to help. Help, Corveth repeated the word like it was amusing. Very well, humans. Go to Sector 47. Patrol your quiet corner of space. Try not to fall apart before your probationary period ends. The council session ended, and the various ambassadors filed out of the chamber. Some ignored Jake and Lisa completely. Others gave them looks that ranged from pity to contempt. Only a few nodded with what might have been respect for at least showing up. Jake and Lisa walked back through the station corridors toward their docking bay. The walls were smooth and perfect, made of materials that seemed to glow with their own internal light. Everything was clean and advanced, making the Earth personnel in their patched uniforms look shabby by comparison. They think we are a joke, Lisa said once they were alone. Yes, Jake agreed. Does that bother you? Jake smiled slightly. Let them think what they want. We did not come here to impress them with our technology. We came to do a job. They reached the docking bay where the Liberty waited. Up close, the ship looked even more worn than in the images. Scorch marks from old battles darkened sections of hull. Repair panels of slightly different colors showed where damage had been fixed. And yes, there were visible strips of gray tape running along some of the external seams. But the ship was solid. She had carried her crew through a dozen engagements during Earth's corporate wars. She had survived things that would have destroyed prettier vessels. And her crew loved her like she was alive. Chief Engineer Danny Cruz was waiting at the airlock. He was a Shea 3 months past since the Liberty arrived in Sector 47. The crew had settled into a routine that felt almost boring. They patrolled empty space between distant trading posts and small colonies. They ran drills to keep sharp. They maintained their ship, making repairs and improvements wherever possible. Chief Danny Cruz had become something of a miracle worker during those months. He managed to increase the reactor efficiency by 15%, using nothing but recalibrated pressure valves and creative rewiring. The other engineers on the crew joked that Danny could make a starship run on spare parts and determination. The bridge of the Liberty was quiet during the morning shift. Lieutenant Amy Brooks sat at the communications station, monitoring the usual background chatter of commercial traffic and automated beacons. She was young for her rank, only 26, but she had proven herself reliable and quick-thinking. Captain Lisa Hayes occupied the command chair, reviewing supply reports on her data pad. Next to her, Commander Jake Morrison studied star charts, looking for the most efficient patrol routes. It was routine work, the kind that made soldiers restless. Then Amy's console beeped. Once, twice, then a dozen times, in rapid succession. Captain, I am picking up a distress signal, Amy said, her fingers already working to isolate the transmission. It is from the Epsilon mining colony. Lisa sat up straight. What is the nature of the emergency? Amy listened to the signal, her face growing pale. They are under attack. Multiple unknown vessels. Weapons, fire. They are requesting immediate assistance. Get me visual if you can, Lisa ordered. The main view screen flickered and showed a shaky image from the colony's external cameras. 6 sleek ships circled the small mining station, like predators around wounded prey. Bright beams of energy lanced out from the attackers, striking the colony's shields. Each hit made the shields glow brighter as they struggled to absorb the damage. "Those are Raider-class vessels," Jake said, studying the ships. "No identification markings, but those weapons look military-grade." "Pirates," Lisa said the word like a curse. "How many people on that colony?" Amy checked her database. 472 registered residents. Mostly miners and their families. Lisa pressed the comm button on her chair. "All hands, battle stations. This is not a drill. Danny, I need the engines ready for combat speed." Down in engineering, Danny heard the announcement and immediately started checking his readouts. "You heard the captain," he shouted to his team. "I want those engines purring like kittens. Check every connection and make sure nothing is going to shake loose when we start throwing this ship around." Back on the bridge, Amy was receiving more transmissions. "Captain, I am getting distress calls from other stations too. 7 total across the sector. All reporting attacks by unknown ships. This is coordinated," Jake said. "Someone is hitting multiple targets at once. What is the nearest council fleet?" Amy worked her console, accessing the Galactic Defense Network. "The Corvani 9th Fleet is 4 hours away. The Zelthari Rapid Response Team is 6 hours out. Those colonists do not have 6 hours." Danny's voice came over the internal comm. "They might not have 30 minutes if those raiders keep hitting them like that." Lisa looked at Jake. They both understood what the situation meant. The council expected them to call for backup and wait for the real military to arrive. That is what a probationary member was supposed to do. Stay out of the way and let the professionals handle things. But 472 people were about to die. "Set course for Epsilon Colony," Lisa ordered. "Maximum speed. Amy, send a message to the council. Tell them we are responding to the emergency." "Captain," Amy said carefully, "we are not authorized to engage hostile forces without council approval. Then they can court-martial me later." Lisa replied, "Right now, people need help, and we are the only ones close enough to give it. Send the message." Jake moved to the tactical station where Lieutenant Pete Garcia was already bringing weapons online. Pete was older than most of the bridge crew, a veteran who had seen combat in 3 different wars before joining the Galactic Defense Force. "What are we looking at?" Jake asked. 6 raiders, each about twice our size," Pete said, his voice calm despite the odds. "They are equipped with plasma cannons, probably stolen or bought on the black market. Their shields are reading strong. Military grade. We are going to have a hard time hurting them." "Then we better be smart about it," Jake said. The Liberty's engines roared to life, pushing the ship to speeds that made her old frame groan in protest. Danny watched his readouts carefully, occasionally smacking a panel that showed warning indicators. More than once, he applied quick patches with his roll of emergency tape, sealing minor leaks before they could become major problems. 2 minutes to Epsilon Colony," Amy announced. Lisa's hands moved over her controls, preparing for combat maneuvers. She had flown this ship through asteroid fields and hostile territory. She knew what the Liberty could do, even if she looked like a flying junkyard to the fancy aliens. "All weapons charged and ready," Pete reported. "Shields at maximum." "Good," Lisa said. "Because this is going to get rough." The Liberty dropped out of faster-than-light travel at the edge of the Epsilon system. The colony appeared on the view screen, surrounded by the 6 raider ships. The station's shields were flickering now, nearly depleted from the constant bombardment. "They have not seen us yet," Pete said. "We have maybe 30 seconds before they notice us on their sensors." "Make those 30 seconds count," Jake said. "Target their engine clusters. Fire when ready." The Liberty's railguns spoke first. Unlike the energy weapons used by most galactic species, humans still preferred kinetic weapons. Tungsten rods accelerated to incredible speeds by electromagnetic rails. They were simple, reliable, and devastatingly effective. 2 raiders took hits to their engine sections. Their shields flared bright as they absorbed the kinetic energy, but the impacts made both ships shudder and veer off course. "We got their attention," Amy said unnecessarily. All 6 raider ships were turning toward the Liberty now, abandoning their assault on the colony. Good, Lisa said grimly. Get them away from those civilians. The raiders opened fire. Plasma bolts streaked through space, crossing the distance in seconds. The Liberty's shields lit up as the first impacts hit, absorbing the energy but losing strength with each strike. Shields down to 70%, Danny reported from engineering. These things hit hard, Captain. We cannot trade blows with them for long. Then we do not trade blows, Lisa said. She studied the tactical display, looking for an advantage. Jake, there is an asteroid field at coordinates 447 by 892. If we can get them to follow us in there, we might have a chance. You want to fight in an asteroid field? Pete asked. That is dangerous even without enemy ships shooting at us. Dangerous for them too, Lisa said with a thin smile. And I am betting we are better at navigating tight spaces than they are. Helm, take us into those rocks. The Liberty banked hard and accelerated toward the nearby asteroid field. The raiders followed, confident in their superior weapons and shielding. They had no reason to fear a human ship that looked like it was held together with tape and prayers. That confidence would not last long. The Liberty dove into the asteroid field at full speed. Rocks, the size of buildings, tumbled through space, spinning slowly. Some were close together, forming narrow passages. Others drifted alone, their surfaces pocked with craters from ancient impacts. Lisa's hands moved constantly on the controls, steering the ship between asteroids with practiced skill. The Liberty twisted and turned, sometimes passing within meters of solid rock. Warning alarms beeped constantly, but Lisa ignored them. She had flown through, worse. The raiders tried to follow, but they were not built for this kind of flying. Their larger size and bulkier design made them slower to react. The first raider clipped an asteroid with its port side. The shields absorbed the impact, but the collision knocked the ship off course and forced it to slow down. They are having trouble keeping up, Amy reported. 3 ships still pursuing us directly, 3 trying to flank us from above. Danny, Jake said into the comm, we need an edge. Can you give us anything? There was a pause. Then Danny's voice came back, excited. I have an idea. It is crazy, but it might work. Give me 2 minutes. You have 90 seconds, Jake said. In engineering, Danny was already moving. He called up schematics on his console and started rerouting power systems. His crew watched him with a mixture of trust and concern. They had seen Danny pull off miracles before, but this looked particularly insane. The constant hum of the engines, something the crew had grown so used to they barely noticed it anymore, suddenly stopped. Even the air recyclers went silent. For a moment, the only sound was breathing. Danny, this better work, Lisa whispered into the darkness. It will work. Danny's voice came back through the emergency comm system, which ran on battery power. These raiders are tracking us by our energy signature. No engines, no reactor output, no target for their sensors to lock onto. They will still see us visually, Pete pointed out. On the tactical display, which was one of the few systems still running on backup power, the 4 remaining raider ships were spreading out, searching. Not if they cannot tell us apart from the rocks, Danny said. Give me a minute. Down in the airlock, Danny was already suited up in his bulky spacewalk gear. His crew had tried to argue with him, saying it was too dangerous to go outside during combat. But Danny had pulled rank, and now he was cycling through the airlock alone. The outer door opened and Danny stepped onto the hull of the Liberty. His magnetic boots clamped onto the metal with solid clicks. Around him, space stretched in every direction, filled with slowly tumbling asteroids. In the distance, he could see the lights of the raider ships as they searched. He had to move fast. Danny carried a bundle of reflective emergency blankets, the kind every ship kept in their survival lockers. They were designed to keep heat in during emergencies, but they had another useful property. They were shiny and irregular, just like asteroid surfaces. He moved across the hull quickly, his boots leaving small magnetic footprints. He unrolled the first blanket and stretched it across a section of the Liberty's hull. Then he pulled out his roll of heavy-duty adhesive tape and started securing it. The tape was specifically designed for space use. It could handle extreme temperatures, vacuum conditions, and radiation. More importantly, it stuck to everything and held tight. Danny worked his way across the hull, covering the most visible sections with the reflective material. He did not have time to cover everything, but he focused on breaking up the ship's silhouette. From a distance, with the material catching starlight and reflecting it at odd angles, the Liberty would look less like a ship and more like another piece of space debris. 30 seconds. Lisa's voice crackled in his helmet. Raiders are getting close. Almost done, Danny gasped, moving faster. He slapped another panel in place and secured it with long strips of tape. His hands moved automatically, the result of years of making emergency repairs under pressure. 15 seconds, Lisa warned. Danny attached the last panel and started pulling himself back toward the airlock. His magnetic boots moved in a smooth rhythm. Plant, release, step, plant, release, step. Behind him, the Liberty's hull was now covered in irregular patches of shiny material that caught the light like crystal formations on an asteroid. 5 seconds, Lisa said. Danny reached the airlock and pulled himself inside. I am in. Seal it. The outer door closed and air rushed back into the small chamber. Danny did not wait for the cycle to complete. As soon as there was enough pressure, he yanked his helmet off. Broadcasting white noise now, Amy said over the comm. On the bridge, the crew watched their tactical display in tense silence. The 4 Raider ships moved through the asteroid field in a search pattern. Their sensors swept back and forth, looking for any sign of the human ship. One Raider passed within 100 meters of the Liberty's position. The crew held their breath, watching as the alien ship's searchlights played across nearby asteroids. The light touched the Liberty's hull for a moment, reflecting off the emergency blanket material in a way that looked just like a mineral formation. The Raider kept moving. It is working, Pete whispered. Minutes passed. The Raiders continued their search, moving further away. Their movements became more frustrated, more random. They had lost their target. Finally, after what felt like hours but was probably only 10 minutes, the Raiders gave up. They regrouped and turned back toward the colony, probably intending to finish what they started with the station. They are heading back to Epsilon, Amy reported softly. Then so are we, Jake said. But this time, we are doing things differently. Danny, get back up here. And bring your thinking cap. We need a plan. Danny arrived on the bridge, still carrying his roll of tape and looking pleased with himself. Did I mention I love this job? Save the celebration, Lisa said, but she was smiling slightly. We got lucky. Those Raiders are going back to the colony, and they are going to be angry when they realize we are not dead. Jake pulled up the tactical display and studied the Raider positions. They are in a loose formation, all facing toward the colony. Their attention is forward. They think we ran away. Good, Pete said. Let them think that. Danny, status on our weapons? Jake asked. The chief engineer checked his datapad. Railguns are fully loaded and ready, but we only have enough power in the capacitors for one good volley before we need to restart the main reactor. That gives us maybe 15 seconds of sustained fire. And our missiles? We have 12 left. Basic chemical rockets with high explosive warheads. Danny shook his head. The council representatives laughed when they saw our missile specs. Called them museum pieces. Museum pieces that go boom, Pete said. Jake studied the Raider positions carefully. An idea was forming. Risky and probably crazy, but it might work. Here is what we are going to do. We position ourselves directly behind their formation, close range, as quiet as we can. Then we hit them with everything at once. That is insane, Amy said. If we miss or if this does not work, they will tear us apart. True, Jake agreed. But right now they think we ran away. They are not expecting us to double back and attack. Surprise is our advantage. Lisa nodded slowly. It could work. We get one shot though. We have to make it count. Then we make it count, Jake said firmly. Lisa, can you get us into position without them detecting us? If we stay dark and move slowly, yes, Lisa said. But the moment we fire up the reactor to shoot, they will know we are there. That is fine, Jake said. By the time they realize it, we will already be shooting. Pete, I need firing solutions on all 6 ships. Concentrate on engine sections and weapon systems. You want to cripple them, not destroy them? Pete asked. If we can, Jake said. But mostly, I want them unable to fight back or run away. Amy, I need you to prep a transmission. What kind of transmission? Amy asked. Jake's expression was cold. I want these pirates to know exactly who is shooting at them and why. Over the next 20 minutes, the Liberty moved carefully through the asteroid field. Lisa used brief bursts from maneuvering thrusters. Keeping the main engines cold, they drifted more than flew. Using the asteroids themselves for cover, slowly, carefully, they positioned themselves behind the Raider formation. The alien ships were about 800 kilometers ahead, focused entirely on the colony. They never thought to check their rear. In position, Lisa whispered, though there was no reason to whisper in space. Power up the reactor, Jake ordered. Quietly if possible. Quietly is not really an option with a fusion reactor, Danny said. But I will do my best. Deep in the Liberty's engineering section, the main reactor came back to life. Plasma temperatures climbed. Magnetic containment fields stabilized. Power began flowing to weapons, systems, and shields. On the bridge, Pete's tactical console lit up with targeting data. I have solutions on all 6 ships. Ready to fire on your order. Jake took a breath. This was it. Everything came down to the next few seconds. Amy, open a channel. Channel open, sir. Jake leaned forward, his voice hard. Attention unidentified vessels. This is Commander Jake Morrison, of the Earth Defense Ship Liberty. You have attacked civilian targets under Galactic Council protection. You have exactly 15 seconds to power down your weapons and surrender. This is your only warning. On the Raider ships, crews turned to stare at their displays in disbelief. The human ship they thought they had destroyed or driven off was behind them, close enough to be dangerous. The Raider commander's response came quickly, his translator rendering his words in broken English. Foolish human. Your primitive ship is no match for us. We destroyed hundreds of vessels more advanced than yours. Run away while you still can. Wrong answer, Jake said quietly. Then louder. Pete. The Liberty's capacitors discharged in a massive surge of power. Every railgun on the ship fired simultaneously. The recoil made the entire vessel shudder, and several silents fell across the Liberty's bridge. They all stared at the view screen, where debris from the destroyed raiders drifted among the asteroids. Amy was the first to break the silence. All hostile vessels destroyed or disabled. I am reading no active weapon systems from any of them. Lisa let out a breath she had not realized she was holding. Damage report. Hull integrity at 68%, Danny reported, his voice shaky with relief. Shields are completely drained. We took a few hits before we finished them. But nothing critical. We are running on backup power for non-essential systems, but the main reactor is stable. Casualties? Jake asked, already knowing the answer but needing to hear it confirmed. No casualties, Danny said, and the relief in his voice was clear. A few bumps and bruises when we took those hits, but everyone is fine. Pete was checking his sensors, making sure the disabled raiders could not surprise them. 2 raiders completely destroyed. 4 disabled and drifting. Their life support is still functioning, but engines and weapons are offline. Keep an eye on them, Lisa ordered. If any of them try to power up weapons, you have permission to finish them. Yes, ma'am, Pete said with satisfaction. Amy's console beeped. Captain, I am receiving a transmission from Epsilon Colony. They are asking what happened. They want to know if it is safe. Tell them the threat is neutralized, Jake said, and ask about their status. How many casualties did they take before we arrived? Amy relayed the questions and listened to the response. Her face lit up with a smile. No casualties, Commander. Their shields held long enough. They are damaged and scared, but everyone is alive. All 472 people. A cheer went up from the bridge crew. Even Lisa allowed herself a small smile. They are asking permission to buy the crew drinks when we dock, Amy added. Tell them we accept, Jake said, grinning. But first, let's make sure those disabled raiders stay disabled. Pete, target their engines with precision shots. I want them unable to move, but do not destroy them. The Council will want to question the survivors. On it, sir. The Liberty moved closer to the disabled raiders, her railguns firing carefully aimed shots that destroyed what remained of their engine systems. It was surgical work, the kind that required a skilled gunner and good targeting computers. Pete managed it perfectly. While that was happening, Amy received another transmission. This one made her face go pale. Commander Morrison, Captain Hayes, she said carefully. I am receiving a priority transmission from the Galactic Council. The Archon is requesting an immediate report on why we engaged hostile forces without authorization. The good mood on the bridge evaporated. Here we go, Lisa muttered. The court-martial. Let me handle this, Jake said. He straightened his uniform and nodded to Amy. The view screen changed from showing the debris field to displaying the Archon's swirling energy form. The chairman of the council did not look pleased. Commander Morrison, the Archon's voice echoed in everyone's mind. You were explicitly told to patrol Sector 47, not to engage in military operations. You exceeded your authority by attacking those vessels. With respect, sir, Jake said calmly. We responded to a distress call from civilians under attack. 472 people were about to die. The nearest council fleet was hours away. We were the only ones who could help. That is not the point, the Archon said. You are probationary members. You do not have authorization to conduct combat operations. You should have reported the situation and waited for proper military forces to respond. Those people would have been dead by the time proper military forces arrived, Jake said, his voice hardening. We took an oath to protect civilians. That oath does not include a waiting period. Before the Archon could respond, another voice cut into the transmission. It was Ambassador Corveth, his crystalline form appearing next to the Archon on the screen. I have reviewed the sensor logs from the engagement, Corveth said. His tone was different now, lacking the mockery from their first meeting. Commander Morrison, how did you defeat 6 raiders, equipped with military-grade weapons, using a single ship? We used surprise and concentration of fire, Jake said simply. We positioned ourselves where they were not expecting us and hit them all at once. They never had a chance to coordinate a response. You used kinetic weapons against energy shields, Corveth continued. That should not have been as effective as it was. Energy shields are designed to dissipate heat and redirect particle beams, Lisa explained. They are less effective against solid projectiles, especially ones moving at high velocity. It is a weakness in the standard galactic shield design. A weakness we were not aware of, Corveth admitted. And you hid from their sensors by cutting power and using reflective materials to blend with asteroids. That tactic is not in any of our tactical databases. It is an old submarine technique from Earth's ocean wars. Danny's voice came through the comm. If you cannot outrun them, or outfight them, hide and wait for a better opportunity. The Archon pulsed with what might have been consideration. Your methods are highly unorthodox. They worked, Jake said flatly. Another voice joined the transmission. This time, it was the Corvani War Master, his reptilian face filling part of the screen. The humans saved 472 lives using inferior technology and unconventional tactics. While I question their disregard for proper authorization, I cannot argue with their results. End quote. The colonists are alive because of them, a new voice added. This was a Delphinian diplomat, one of the aquatic species. That should count for something. The Archon was silent for a long moment. When it finally spoke, its tone was thoughtful. Commander Morrison, you disobeyed direct orders. Yes, sir, Jake said, not backing down. You exceeded your authority and engaged in unauthorized combat operations. Yes, sir. And you saved 472 lives in the process. That was the goal, sir. Another long pause. Then the Archon said, the Council will review your actions and issue a formal ruling. Until then, you are confined to Sector 47. You will provide a full tactical report on the engagement. And you will salvage those disabled raiders so we can identify who supplied them with military weapons. Understood, sir, Jake said. The transmission ended. The bridge crew let out a collective breath. That went better than expected, Pete said. They still might, Lisa warned. But at least we bought ourselves some time. Over the next few hours, the Liberty helped coordinate rescue and recovery operations. The colonists were shaken, but grateful. Engineers from the mining station came aboard the Liberty to deliver their thanks personally. One of them, an older woman named Helen, looked around the bridge with interest. She noticed the worn equipment, the patched panels, and the roll of tape sitting openly on Danny's console. This is the ship that saved us? She asked. It looks like it has been through a war. Several wars, actually, Danny said proudly. But she keeps flying. That is what matters. Helen smiled. My father used to say that the best tools are not the prettiest ones. They are the ones that work when you need them most. Your father was a wise man, Jake said. While they were talking, Amy received yet another transmission. This one made her eyes go wide. Commander, Captain, you need to see this, she said urgently. Jake and Lisa moved to her station. Amy pulled up a data file that had just arrived from the Council analysis team. It showed the wreckage of the raiders and, more importantly, their cargo holds. They were not just pirates, Amy explained. They were slavers. The disabled ships have holding cells in their cargo bays. Empty now. But the equipment is there, and according to the flight logs we recovered, they have been hitting colonies across 3 sectors for the past year. How many people did they take? Lisa asked quietly. Thousands, Amy said. Maybe more. The logs are incomplete. But we found references to at least 30 other raids. Jake felt cold anger settle in his chest. Send that data to the Council immediately. This is bigger than we thought. Already done, sir, Amy said. And the Council is responding. The Archon is calling an emergency session. They want us to attend remotely. The view screen activated again, this time showing the full Council chamber. All the major species were represented. Their ambassadors gathered to hear the news. The Archon spoke, its voice carrying to everyone present. The data recovered by the human crew confirms our worst fears. The raiders we thought were simple pirates were part of a larger slaving operation. They have been targeting remote colonies for months, and we missed it. Corveth's crystalline form dimmed with what might have been shame. We had reports of missing colonists, but we assumed they were isolated incidents. We did not see the pattern. The humans saw it because they were there when it happened, the Corvani War Master said. While we debated protocols and authorization, they acted. They saved those colonists and uncovered a major criminal operation in the process. The Archon pulsed brightly. Commander Morrison, Capta 6, weeks after the Battle of Epsilon Colony, the Liberty returned to Outpost Gamma 7 for resupply and crew rotation. But this time, everything was different. 3 Zelthari cruisers escorted the human ship into dock, their sleek hulls gleaming in the station lights. It was a mark of respect, something usually reserved for flag officers and council dignitaries. The crews of those cruisers had studied the Liberty's tactics and wanted to see the famous ship up close. Jake and Lisa walked through the docking tube and found a welcoming committee waiting. At the front stood Ambassador Corveth, his crystalline body pulsing with colors that the humans had learned meant respect and apology among his people. "Fleet Commander Morrison, Captain Hayes," Corvith said, bowing slightly. It was a human gesture, adopted specifically for this meeting. "Welcome back to Gamma 7. "Thank you, Ambassador," Jake said, a bit uncomfortable with all the ceremony. "The Council has finished reviewing the full report of your engagement," Corvith continued. "And we have reached several conclusions. First, we owe you an apology." Lisa raised an eyebrow. "For what specifically?" "You apologized already, for not just underestimating you, but for actively mocking you," Corvith said. His form dimmed, showing embarrassment. "We saw your duct tape and chemical propulsion and assumed you were primitive. We judged your worth by your tools rather than your skills." The Corvani War Master stepped forward. He was even more massive up close, his bioarmor making him look like a walking tank. "We made a critical error in our thinking. We assumed that advanced technology automatically meant advanced tactics. The humans proved that assumption wrong. You saved 472 lives with a single ship," another alien added. This was a Vraxian, its insect-like form clicking as it spoke. "While our fleets of thousands sat hours away, too slow to respond. That is not a failure of technology. That is a failure of thinking. We appreciate the kind words," Jake said carefully. "But we were just doing our job. Any crew would have done the same." "No," Corvith said firmly. "They would not have." Jake shook his head. "Hundreds," Corvith said. "And do you know how we handle them? We check authorization levels. We verify jurisdiction. We file incident reports and wait for the proper response teams to be assembled. By the time we finish the paperwork, hours have passed. Sometimes, days. That is the way military organizations work," the Corvani War Master added. "We have protocols and procedures. They exist to prevent chaos and ensure coordinated responses. But sometimes, those same protocols prevent us from acting quickly when speed is what matters most. You did not wait," a Delphinian said from its water tank. "You saw people in danger and responded immediately. Then you used tactics we had never considered to defeat a superior force. You hid among asteroids. You attacked from an unexpected angle. You concentrated your fire on weak points in our standard shield designs. Our analysts have been studying your engagement for weeks," Corvith admitted. "Your railguns should not have been as effective as they were against military-grade shields, but you targeted the shields at their weakest angle and used kinetic energy instead of heat. It was brilliant. It was basic physics," Danny said, joining the conversation. He had been quiet until now, but he could not resist adding technical details. "Energy shields dissipate heat by radiating it away or redirecting it. But kinetic energy is different. You cannot redirect momentum without structural bracing. Your shields had to absorb the full force of our tungsten rounds." Several of the alien engineers in the group started asking Danny technical questions. Within minutes, they were deep in a discussion about shield harmonics and weapons design that left most of the others confused. Jake smiled slightly. This was good. This was the kind of exchange that led to real cooperation and learning. "Fleet Commander Morrison." The Archon's voice echoed in everyone's mind as the energy being materialized nearby. "Walk with me. We have much to discuss." Jake followed the floating form down a corridor, with Lisa staying close behind. The Archon led them to a private conference room with transparent walls that looked out over the docking bay. "Your promotion to Fleet Commander comes with significant responsibilities," the Archon explained. "You will command a mixed task force of human and alien vessels. Your mission is to hunt down the slaving ring you discovered." "Understood, sir," Jake said. "What resources will we have?" "The Liberty remains your flagship," the Archon said. "In addition, you will have 3 Zelthari cruisers, 2 Corvani destroyers, and 4 more human vessels that are being transferred from Earth's home defense fleet. A total of 11 ships Under your command. Jake whistled softly. That was a significant force. There is more, the Archon continued. The Council wants you to train our officers in your tactical methods. What you call thinking outside the box. We have realized that our technology has made us complacent. We have forgotten how to adapt and improvise. I am not sure I can teach creativity, Jake said honestly. It is not something you learn from a textbook. Perhaps not, the Archon agreed. But you can teach them to question assumptions, to look for weaknesses in standard designs, to use available resources rather than waiting for perfect conditions. Those lessons alone would be valuable. Lisa spoke up. What about the slavers? Do we have any leads on where they are operating from? Some, the Archon said. The data you recovered included encrypted communication logs. Our best analysts are working to break the encryption. But it will take time. In the meantime, you will patrol the affected sectors and investigate other disappearances. We will need more than that, Jake said. If we are hunting an organized criminal network, we need intelligence, informants, someone who knows the underworld. The Archon pulsed thoughtfully. There is a trader named Vex who operates in the border regions. He has connections to various criminal groups. He might have information, if you can convince him to share it. Where do we find this Vex? Lisa asked. He frequents a trading post called the Rusty Comet. It is not a pleasant place, but it is where information gets bought and sold. Then that is where we start, Jake said. Over the next 2 days, the Liberty underwent repairs and upgrades. The hull patches were reinforced, though Danny insisted on keeping some of the original duct tape visible as a reminder. The shields were upgraded with newer emitters provided by the Zelthari, though the human engineers had to modify them to work with the Liberty's older power systems. The rest of the task force began arriving. The Zelthari cruisers were sleek and fast, designed for long-range patrols. The Corvani destroyers were heavy and powerful, built like flying fortresses. And the 4 additional human ships were similar to the Liberty, tough and practical. Jake met with all the captains in a conference room aboard the station. It was strange, seeing so many different species sitting around one table. Thank you all for coming, Jake began. I know some of you have concerns about serving under human command. I understand that. A few months ago, you were laughing at our technology. Now you are expected to follow our orders. That is a big change. A Zelthari captain named Sorath spoke up. I have studied your battle at Epsilon Colony. Your tactics were sound. I have no concerns about your competence, Fleet Commander. My only question is whether you can adapt your methods to work with larger forces. That is a fair question, Jake said. And the honest answer is, I do not know. Everything we did at Epsilon was based on having one ship that could move fast and hide easily. With 11 ships, that changes. But you are willing to experiment? A Corvani captain asked. Absolutely, Jake said. And I want input from all of you. You know your ships better than I do. If you see a way to improve a plan or adapt a tactic, speak up. This is not going to work if I just give orders and expect you to follow blindly. The captains seemed to relax slightly. They had been worried about serving under an inflexible commander, but Jake was showing he understood the value of their experience. What are our rules of engagement? Sorath asked. Protect civilians first, Jake said immediately. That is the top priority, always. Second, we try to capture slavers alive so we can get intelligence. But if they threaten civilian lives or refuse to surrender, we stop them by whatever means necessary. Even if that means destroying ships worth millions in salvage? A human captain asked. Even then, Jake confirmed. This is not about profit. It is about stopping people who are kidnapping and selling sentient beings. If we have to turn their ships into scrap metal to do that, so be it. Heads nodded around the table. These were people who understood duty over profit. One more thing, Jake said. We are going to be operating in rough areas, dealing with criminals, and worse. Things will not always go by the book. I need captains who can think on their feet and make hard decisions quickly. If that is not you, now is the time to request a transfer. No shame in it. Nobody moved. Good, Jake said with a slight smile. Then, let us go hunting. The task force departed Gamma 7 the next day. 11 ships moving in formation. A mix of human ingenuity and alien technology working together for the first time. On the Liberty's bridge, Amy plotted a course to the Rusty Comet trading post. It would take them 3 days to reach it, traveling through some of the less pleasant parts of the galaxy. The Rusty Comet lived up to its name. The trading post was a collection of aging modules and salvaged ship sections welded together in a way that made Danny's engineer, Soul, cringe. It drifted in neutral space, technically not belonging to any government, which made it popular with people who preferred to avoid official attention. Jake decided to take only a small team to the meeting. Too many people would look like a military operation, which would scare off the informants. Too few, and they might not make it back alive. He settled on 5 people. Himself, Lisa, Danny, Pete, and Amy. They took a small shuttle from the Liberty and docked at one of the Rusty Comet's many airlocks. The station's internal atmosphere was breathable, but smelled like recycled air that had been recycled too many times. The lighting was dim, probably to hide how dirty everything was. Stay alert, Lisa said quietly as they walked through the main corridor. Keep your hands visible but near your weapons. Around them, the station was busy with all kinds of beings. Traders haggled over cargo containers. Mechanics repaired equipment right in the hallway. A few suspicious characters lurked in doorways, watching everyone who passed. I feel like we have targets painted on our backs, Amy whispered. We probably do, Jake said. Just keep moving, and act like you belong here. They found the bar where Vex supposedly conducted business. It was called the Broken Engine, which seemed appropriate for a place on the Rusty Comet. The inside was dark and crowded, with dozens of species drinking and talking in low voices. There, Pete said, nodding toward a corner booth. As they got closer, they could see he was a Thulaxian, a species known for their excellent memory and connections throughout the criminal underworld. Vex looked up as they approached. He had 4 eyes arranged in a square pattern on his flat face, and his skin was covered in bioluminescent patterns that flickered in response to his mood. Commander Morrison, Vex said, his voice surprisingly pleasant. I was wondering when you would find me. Please, sit. Jake slid into the booth across from Vex, while the others positioned themselves nearby. You know who I am? Ah, everyone in this sector knows who you are, Vex said. The human who defeated 6 raiders with 1 ship. The one who found the slavers. You are famous, Commander. Or perhaps infamous, depending on who you ask. I need information, Jake said, not bothering with pleasantries. The slaving operation we uncovered is bigger than we thought. Someone is organizing these raids, supplying ships and weapons. I want to know who. Vex's bioluminescent patterns shifted to a darker blue. That is dangerous information. Commander, the people you are asking about do not like being asked about. Are you afraid of them? Lisa asked. I am cautious of them, Vex corrected. There is a difference. Fear is irrational. Caution is smart. So you do know something, Jake said. Vex was quiet for a moment, considering. What you are asking could get me killed. Why should I help you? Because these slavers are bad for business, Jake said. They draw attention. Council ships patrolling. Investigations. Checkpoints. All of that makes life harder for traders like you, even legitimate ones. Most of my business is legitimate, Vex said with a slight smile. Most. Help us shut down the slavers, and the council presence in this region decreases. Jake continued. Things go back to normal. That is worth something to you. Vex's patterns shifted to a thoughtful green. Perhaps. But I need more than that. If I give you this information and you fail to stop them, they will know it came from me. I need protection. What kind of protection? Lisa asked. Safe passage to council space, Vex said. A new identity. A clean start somewhere far from here. That is a big ask, Jake said. It is big information, Vex replied. Jake thought about it. He did not have the authority to promise witness protection on his own. But the Archon had told him to use his judgment. And if this information was as important as Vex suggested, it would be worth the cost. Agreed, Jake said. You help us, and we will get you out of here with a new life waiting for you. You have my word. Vex studied Jake with all four eyes, as if trying to read the human sincerity. Finally, he nodded. Very well. What you discovered at Epsilon Colony was just one cell of a much larger operation. They are called the Broken Chain. They operate across multiple sectors, hitting remote targets where response times are slow. Who leads them? Pete asked. A Corvani named Rask, Vex said. Former military, dishonorably discharged for war crimes. He realized there was more profit in slavery than in serving his empire. He has connections that supply him with surplus military equipment. Ships, weapons, shields, everything he needs. Where is he operating from? Jake asked. That is the difficult part, Vex said. He does not stay in one place. He has multiple bases scattered across the border regions. He moves between them constantly, never following a predictable pattern. So we cannot just hit one base and capture him, Lisa said with frustration. No, Vex agreed. But I can tell you where he will be 3 weeks from now. Everyone leaned forward. How do you know that? Jake asked. Because 3 weeks from now is the monthly auction, Vex explained. The Broken Chain collects victims from multiple raids and then sells them all at once to buyers from across the galaxy. Rask always attends personally. Too much money involved to trust to subordinates. Where is this auction held? Jake asked. A place called Station Echo, Vex said. It is an old mining facility that was abandoned decades ago. Rask bought it through shell companies and converted it into his headquarters. On auction days, it is filled with slavers, buyers, and guards, heavily defended. Jake's mind was already working through possibilities. A frontal assault on a heavily defended station would be costly, maybe impossible. But there had to be another way. How many people does Rask have? Lisa asked. On a normal day, maybe 50 to 100, Vex said. On auction day, 3 times that. Plus the buyers and their security. You would be looking at 400 armed individuals minimum. What about the victims? Amy asked quietly. How many people are being sold? Vex's patterns dimmed to a sad gray. Last auction had over 2,000. This one will probably be similar. 2,000 people. Jake felt cold anger settle in his chest. 2,000 lives about to be sold like cargo. Tell me everything you know about Station Echo, Jake said. Layout, defenses, everything. Vex pulled out a data chip. I thought you might want details. This has station schematics, guard rotations, everything I could gather. But Commander, even with this information, attacking during the auction would be suicide. They will be ready for exactly that. Then we do not attack, Jake said, an idea forming. We do something they will not expect. Over the next hour, Vex provided every detail he could about Station Echo and the Broken Chain's operations. Jake listened carefully, asking questions and filing away information. By the time they were done, he had the beginnings of a plan. One more question, Jake said. These buyers at the auction, who are they? Rich individuals, mostly, Vex said. Crime lords who want cheap labor. Corporate executives who need workers for dangerous mining operations. A few governments that officially condemn slavery but quietly participate. It is a disgusting business. We are going to shut it down, Jake said firmly. All of it. I hope you succeed, Vex said. I truly do. But be careful, Commander. Rask is not some petty criminal. He is smart, ruthless, and well-connected. He will not go down easily. Neither will we, Lisa said. They left the broken engine and made their way back to the shuttle. Once they were safely aboard and heading back to the Liberty, Amy spoke up. Sir, what are you planning? Vex is right that attacking Station Echo directly would be suicide. I know, Jake said. That is why we are not going to attack it. At least not the way they expect. Then what? Danny asked. Jake smiled slightly. We are going to walk in the front door. The others stared at him. Have you lost your mind? Lisa asked. Maybe, Jake admitted. But think about it. The auction is happening in 3 weeks. Buyers from all over the galaxy will be arriving. Security will be watching for a military assault, not for someone pretending to be a buyer. You want to go undercover? Pete said slowly. Into a slaver auction? Not just me, Jake said. A small team. We get inside, gather intelligence, and when the time is right, we signal the fleet to attack. By the time they realize what is happening, we will have already freed the prisoners and disabled their defenses from the inside. That is insane, Amy said. Probably, Jake agreed. But it might work. And it is better than sending our ships into a meat grinder. Lisa shook her head, but she was smiling slightly. You know what? It is crazy enough that it might actually work, but we need to plan this perfectly. One mistake, and we are dead. Then we better not make any mistakes, Jake said. When they returned to the Liberty, Jake called a meeting with all the task force captains. He laid out Vex's information and his proposed plan. The reactions were mixed. This is incredibly dangerous, Captain Soreth said. If they discover you are not really buyers, they will kill you immediately. I know, Jake said. But it gives us the best chance to save those 2,000 victims. A direct assault would result in the slavers killing their prisoners before we could reach them. This way, we are already inside when the shooting starts. The Corvani captain rumbled thoughtfully. It is a bold plan. Perhaps too bold. But I see the logic. If you can disable their shields and weapons from inside, our ships can dock and deploy troops before they can respond effectively. That is the idea, Jake said. We need a team of people who can blend in as buyers. That means humans probably work best. Most of you would be too recognizable. Who do you want on the infiltration team? Lisa asked. You and me, Jake said. Danny, because we will need someone who can sabotage their systems. Amy, because we need someone who can handle communications and data extraction. And Pete, for security. 5 people to infiltrate a station with 400 armed guards, Pete said. I have had easier missions, but I have had harder ones too. I am in. Everyone else will wait with the fleet at a staging point 3 hours away, Jake continued. When we signal, you jump in and hit them hard. The key is timing. We disable their defenses. You arrive and overwhelm them before they can recover. What if something goes wrong? Soreth asked. What if they discover you before you can signal? Then we improvise, Jake said. It is what we are good at. Remember? The captains looked at each other, then nodded. One by one. We trust you, Fleet Commander, Soreth said. You have not let us down yet. We will be ready when you signal. Jake looked around at the assembled captains. Human, Zelthari, Corvani, all working together. 6 months ago, they would have laughed at the idea of following a human's lead. Now they were betting their lives on it. 3 weeks, Jake said. We have 3 weeks to prepare. Let us make them count. We are going to save 2,000 lives and destroy a criminal empire. And we are going to do it with duct tape, fury, and a whole lot of courage. The captains raised their hands, claws, and tentacles in agreement. The hunt was on. Think this Vex character will help us? Lisa asked. Depends on what we can offer him, Jake said. Information brokers like Vex do not do favors. Everything has a price. What do we have that he would want? Pete asked. Jake smiled coldly. Protection. If Vex helps us take down a slaving ring, the slavers will not be around to cause him problems anymore. That is worth something. And if he does not see it that way? Danny asked. Then we get creative, Jake said. We are good at that. As the task force jumped into faster-than-light travel, Jake looked at the tactical display showing all 11 ships moving together. It was a strange sight. Seeing human vessels flying alongside alien ones as equals, rather than as jokes. They had come a long way in a short time. But the real test was still ahead. They had to prove they could not only fight, but hunt. They had to track down a criminal network that had been operating undetected for years. It would not be easy. But then again, nothing worthwhile ever was. In Hayes, on behalf of the Galactic Council, I apologize. We underestimated you. We mocked your technology and questioned your methods. We were wrong. Jake and Lisa exchanged surprised looks. Furthermore, the Archon continued. Your probationary status is hereby ended. Earth is granted full membership in the Galactic Defense Initiative. And Commander Morrison, you are promoted to the rank of Fleet Commander. You will lead a new task force dedicated to hunting down the rest of this slaving operation. The council chamber erupted in discussion, but Jake barely heard it. He was too focused on the weight of what had just been offered. Sir, he said carefully, we are honored by this promotion. But our methods are not conventional. If we are going to lead a task force, we need the freedom to operate the way we know works. Granted, the Archon said without hesitation. You have proven your judgment sound. The Council trusts you to do what is necessary. Then we accept, Jake said. As the transmission ended and the bridge crew celebrated, Danny looked at his roll of tape and smiled. Hear that? He said to no one in particular. We are fleet commanders now. Fleet commanders who know the true power of duct tape. Warning lights lit up on Danny's console as systems strained under the sudden load. But the guns kept firing. Tungsten rods, each one moving at a significant fraction of light speed, crossed the distance to the raiders in heartbeats. The alien shields, designed primarily to handle energy weapons like plasma bolts and lasers, were less effective against solid projectiles moving at relativistic speeds. 3 raiders took direct hits to their engine sections. The tungsten punched through shields and armor like they were paper. Explosions bloomed from the impacts as fuel lines ruptured and reactor containment failed. Launching missiles, Pete announced, his fingers dancing across the launch controls. 12 chemical rockets streaked away from the Liberty. They were primitive by galactic standards, using simple solid fuel and basic guidance systems. But they were fast, and they carried big warheads. The raiders, scrambling to respond to the railgun attack, barely registered the incoming missiles as threats. By the time their point defense systems started tracking the rockets, it was too late. The missiles struck home. Massive explosions tore through 2 more raiders, overwhelming their weakened shields and ripping into their hulls. One raider broke apart completely, its reactor going critical and adding its own explosion to the chaos. Reactor back online, Danny reported, bringing weapon systems back to full power. On the view screen, 5 of the 6 raiders were either destroyed or drifting, their engines dark and their weapons silent. Only 1 raider remained combat-capable, and it was turning to face the Liberty, plasma cannons charging for a counterattack. Final target acquired, Pete said. The Liberty's railguns spoke again, and the last raider joined its companions in defeat. On the bridge, Pete kept the railguns firing whenever a raider came into view. The human weapons might not penetrate the alien shields easily, but they were causing damage. Each hit drained the raiders' shield strength a little more. 60 seconds, Jake said. Almost there, Danny replied, his hands flying over the controls. The Liberty twisted through a particularly tight cluster of asteroids, and 2 raiders trying to follow her collided with each other. Their shields flashed as the ships scraped together. both vessels spinning out of control. "That is 2 down," Pete said with satisfaction. 4 to go. 30 seconds, Jake announced. "Done," Danny said. "Captain, I need you to cut all power, except for minimal life support. Right now." "What?" Lisa asked, even as her hands moved to comply with the order. "Trust me," Danny said. "And Amy, when I give the word, I need you to broadcast white noise on all frequencies." "What is the plan?" Jake asked. Danny's voice was grim. "We are going to disappear," Ort, stocky man with grease permanently embedded under his fingernails. He had been working on the Liberty for 7 years and knew every pipe and wire in her hull. "How did it go?" Danny asked. "About as expected," Lisa said. "They laughed at us, mocked our technology, and gave us the worst assignment possible." Danny grinned. "So a normal Tuesday then?" "Something like that," Jake said. "Get the crew ready, Chief. We are heading to Sector 47. "Yes, sir. Are we expecting trouble?" Jake looked at the Liberty, his eyes moving over her patched hull and makeshift repairs. She was not pretty, but she was tough, just like her crew. "The Tom, into I. Some trouble has a way of finding us," Jake said. "So yes, we should probably expect it." As they boarded the ship, none of them could have known how right Jake was. Trouble was coming to Sector 47, the kind of trouble that would test everything they had. And when it arrived, the entire galaxy would learn that humanity's greatest strength was not their technology. It was their refusal to give up, no matter what.